be sitting around here talking about they dropping bottom, ain't doing nothing. Man, what you think about that?
Man, what you think about it, go down? What you man? You know, up to the soundboard, man, and kick the bottom. What you say?
Word up, man. It's time to dance. It's time to do this. Just a minute, it's out there. You're gonna know that.
I dropped the damn key. This is how I'm figuring out who my TWD fans are. Who understands the line, Gene? Who else? Who else understood that? Kevin has not watched The Walking Dead. I had to do it, Kevin. That's not good. But you're going to watch, right? That's my man. That's my man. Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Good energy.
This is the thing I learned in speech communication. So I was a double major at UGA, theater and speech communications. First thing I learned was have an attention getter. So did I get your attention? Good. Shout out to the DJ for playing that impromptu drop that bass song. Now, my moves are not as good as they were back in 1993. I still got it. My wife said I still got it. That's my wife and your wife / manager. What's it called, huh? And then, if we could just give everyone that has been a part of this show, starting with David, putting together something so, wait a minute, that was David Bourne himself. That was David Bourne himself, right? David, where are you? So, starting with David, choosing to honor these beautiful people. I applaud you for doing what you do. I think that is one of the most important things that we can do in this life is to help each other, help one another. That's my mission in this life. And after you hear my story, you'll understand why it's so important and why I honor you and appreciate you all for what you do. David didn't know this, but that's how I used to dance in costume. I used to cosplay. I played, guess who I played? I played Judy Jetson. I did Judy Jetson. I was the mascot for the Atlanta Braves. So I was Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. I did Scooby-Doo. I did Fred Flintstone. I did Betty Rubble, Wilma, the Jetsons. I did George Jetson. I did it all. My wife and I owned a costume shop. First of all, let me introduce myself. I got ahead of myself. Because some of you will look at me the way Kevin looked at me. When I first met him upstairs, I met Tara. And she was like, oh, can I take a picture? And Kevin was like, and I stood up and hugged Tara to take a picture. He's like, who is this guy? Let me find my light. Who is this guy hugging my wife taking a picture? I said, judging by that look on your face, you've never watched The Walking Dead. That's how I found out. He was like, no, I have not. But he is a geek, though. He loves stuff, but he's planning on watching it. I love you, Kevin. That's why I'm making you a part of the show right now. So I did cosplay and played all those different characters. And I had such a love for it You know, when you have on the big masks or the big head, nobody can see you. But I'm inside and I'm smiling as I'm dancing for not just the kids, but the big kids. And I'm dancing, I'm in the costume like, doing my best Carlton dance. And I'm just smiling. And the smile is just locked in. And it just came from the sheer joy of being able to put a smile on somebody else's face. Being able to make them feel better actually made me feel better. And that speaks to our interconnection. We are one, made by the same source, the same energy. The law of thermodynamics states that, here's David, back there bullying himself. The law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. We are an abundance of energy, everybody, and we come from the same thing. It's incumbent upon us to share that energy. You'll understand why I feel this way when I'm done with this talk. But share that energy with one another so that we can leave this world better than we found it. In just my short ride from the airport to the hotel room, I got to know David. I didn't know him before that, other than through a couple of email exchanges that I read between him and my wife, and we talked. And I found out his story about his father and how his father was. I said that if you don't share this, David, I'll probably share it tomorrow when I'm on stage. And within about 5 to 10 minutes of him sharing his story, tears were rolling down my face. I live for those moments. I live for us to connect with one another. It's so meaningful that we continue to do that. What David did, and he doesn't understand, is that he replenished my cup of hope. Because it's so easy today to become cynical because of what we're experiencing in our society. But when we connect with each other on a level of truth and love, David shared his truth with me, and he shared it with love. He said that he saw in his father's closet when he was a kid, the white hood, the white cape. You know what that is, the Klansman uniform. And he saw that, and his father despised, loathed it when David interacted with somebody that looked like me, a black person. And he abused David because of it. Because of his experiences with his father. So he grew up in an abusive home. David said, he used the quote from the Bible, people ask, what would Jesus do? He said his philosophy was, what would my father do? And whatever my father would do, I'm going to do the opposite of that. Because that way I know I'm doing good in this world. And so instantly my heart just filled with love and appreciation for this young man, this man.
Yeah, not young.
Well, I'm trying to shout both of us out because we're around the same age. So just let me believe what I want to believe. So it made it that much more important that I be here today. And I understood. I said, okay, God, that's why I'm here today. Because this brother right here is doing something great for the community. He's honoring our heroes. He's honoring our heroes. I looked up hero, I need to introduce myself again, right? That happens. I'm improvising, everybody. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but I'm improvising right now. I forgot to introduce myself. I am IronE Singleton. I am known for a movie called The Blind Side and also a television show called The Walking Dead, where I play T-Dog. Thank you very, very much. So, I'm here to talk about overcoming obstacles in life. And the best way I know how to do that is by reciting a speech from my one-man show. I have a one-man show entitled Blindsided by, get this, The Walking Dead. Formerly known as IronE the Resurrected. But when I booked The Blind Side and The Walking Dead, I said I feel I need to change the name of them because people are familiar with both of those movies. One won an Oscar, one was nominated for a Golden Globe. So in my show, I start by saying, I'll sum up my life for you in this speech. I feel my life has gone from the abyss to the utopia end of the spiritual spectrum. I've come from an environment where I was spiritually dead. My conscience was, for the most part, dormant. My way of thinking, speaking, acting was an act of socialization. I am now at a point in my life where I have acknowledged and accepted a responsibility to be a role model and to sacrifice my life, if need be, to fulfill the purpose God has instilled in me, inspire others. Through God's grace and guidance, I have and will continue to do great things with my life until the day I die. Thanks to Dr. King and those with, before, and after him, I too have a dream. From the age of 8, I can remember having a realization that things in this world are not right, not fair, not equal, and therefore not godly. My recollection of it all to this day seems like the opening to an inspirational stage play. As an 8-year-old child, drenched with tears after having been forcefully held down and having a piece of cake and ice cream smashed onto my face by my mother, I look at myself in the bathroom mirror, searching for the motivation to carry on, as I chant to myself, "You gonna be somebody, and ain't nothing gonna stop you. Nothing." In the background, outside the window, there are muzzled sounds of screaming, cursing, fighting, and gunfire. I use this self-conversing and the negativity around me to get me through the helpless and dark times. Eventually, I am molded into a reflection of my environment, resorting to fighting, haphazard sex, carrying a pistol, selling drugs, which led to many near-death moments I managed to survive. My mother was not as fortunate. She died from HIV-related illnesses. This traumatic event, along with an aggregate of positive experiences in and outside my native environment, tends to reignite my metaphysical passion to succeed. I go on to the University of Georgia, where I majored in theater and speech communications. My exposure to many people from different cultures, ethnicities, and walks of life, along with my studies, serve as the birth of my enlightenment, which leads me to believe it is all for one reason: to do God's work. I end up being cast in, like I said earlier, the biggest sports movie ever, The Blind Side, to subsequently landing in the biggest television show in basic cable history, The Walking Dead, as I played T-Dog. I don't think any of that is by happenstance. I feel like everything that I went through in life prepared me to play the role of Alton in The Blind Side. How many of you are familiar with The Blind Side? And the character I played, I could have very easily become Alton, the character I played in the movie. But God had other plans for me because I chose to listen and obey. When I was born at Grady Hospital, which got a shout out in The Walking Dead. I don't know if you remember that hospital episode where Beth was. So you got, oh yeah, yes I do. I was born there. My mother left me there, and the nurse from the hospital called my grandmother and told her that my mother had left me at the hospital. My grandmother called my mom, this is based on what my grandmother told me, and blessed my mother out and told her, "You better go get that boy." It was a little more graphic than that, I'm sure. And my mother got me and took me home to the first housing project that I lived in called Techwood. The very first housing project commissioned by FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in 1937, built in 1939, I think. It was not for black people to live in until the 1960s. We had the white flight to the suburbia. And so I ended up there in Techwood in 1975. And 3 years later, I ended up moving over to Perry Homes, which is the biggest housing project at that time for sure. It was the biggest housing project in the US. So I went from the first housing project to the biggest housing project. I endured abuse, like I told you, at the hands of my mother, physical and emotional abuse. But the most humiliating form of abuse for me was when my mother smashed that cake and ice cream in my face. That's why I touch on that, because that forever changed me, my psyche, my mindset, because I said, if the person I love as much as anybody on this planet can do this to me, then that means that other people are capable of doing it also. I made up my mind at that time that I won't allow that to happen to me again. I will die before I am humiliated again in that fashion. That was my thinking. I started selling crack cocaine at the age of 13, 14 years old. My uncle, my cousins, my brother, when they would all go out, my brother's almost maybe a couple of years older than I am, and they would go out to the clubs or the strip clubs or wherever they would go, they would give me their drugs so I could sell, so I could make a few dollars. So I would be studying for whatever test. I studied a little bit. I didn't study as much as I could, as much as I should have. I graduated with 2.8 GPA from high school, and I graduated as a scholar athlete. Go figure. But I would study from time to time. I figured that my ticket out of the projects was football. Go Dogs, sickle. To Alexa and Cody up there up top. Big dog fans. So my ticket out of the hood was football. And so I worked towards that. One of my heroes, y'all name that movie. I can't sing. Oh, say it loud, say it with your chest. Huh? Remember the Titans? Rocky! Yo, Rocky! Oh! Yes, Rocky, the greatest movie ever made. Remember the Titans is a good one too. And I'm not just saying that, Cody, just because I was in it, but that's my number 3 movie. after The Blind Side. Rocky, The Blind Side, and Remember the Titans. Rocky is the greatest movie ever made because I could relate so much to that story of being destitute and wanting so much out of life that you are willing to sacrifice it all, even if it requires you to lose your life for success. I was that hungry to get out of that environment. And so whenever I got down and out, I would drop, do push-ups, have the Rocky soundtrack playing in my mind. My wife, whenever we go to the gym, she tries to put her headphones on me so I can listen to her hype music. And I'm like, I don't need that. I'm good. Because I have my Rocky soundtrack playing in my mind. Forever, all the time. I would take off running on a Saturday night when people thought I was crazy Robert. I was born Robert Singleton in the hood. I was born Robert. So, and I'll tell you about IronE, how I came up with that. And I would jog through the hood at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and say, oh, there go crazy Robert. Oh, crazy Robert running through the neighborhood. I was crazy to get out of that situation that I was in. I was crazy for success. And there was nothing that was going to stand in my way. No matter how much strife or hardship I was enduring, it did not matter. I was going to do what I had to do. We had no street lights. We had no lights at our football stadium, but I would run up there and it would be black dark, and I would run around the track, motivating myself, having those conversations with myself again. You gonna be somebody. Ain't nothing gonna stop you. God gave me something to allow me to be my own hero. I came to the conclusion throughout my transformation, my journey, was that we are all heroes. Because I had to look it up, and I said, what is the likelihood of hitting the lottery, the Mega Millions jackpot? Somebody's like, I want that. Ooh, that sounds good. What's the likelihood of hitting the Mega Millions jackpot as opposed to being born a human being? I don't have the exact numbers, but it's 30 million times plus. We're more likely to hit the Mega Millions jackpot than to be born a human being. Than to be born a human being. We would hit the jackpot 30 million times plus before the possibility of us coming here as human beings. That lets me know that we are all special. There's greatness in all of us. And I said, oh, that's what I felt from God. I said, oh, so I can do whatever I want to do. I can be whatever I want to be in life. I just have to make it through these tough times. 18 years old, May 9th, 1993, on my way to go out to the club with my homeboys, and I walked into my grandmother's apartment, and my grandmother, my uncle, my aunt, they were sitting in the dining room area, and I was happy because I'm about to go out to the club, and my grandmother just said, Robert, Kit dead. That's how it came out. My mother's name was Catherine, but we called her, not Cat for short, but it was more so of a southern slang. We said Kid. It came out as Kid. She said, Kid dead. So that was and is still the most painful time of my life, because I was 18, my brain was still developing. I didn't know how to cope with that. I didn't know how to deal with that. So I found myself on my knees in the bedroom that I slept in and shared with other relatives at any given time. There were 11 of us living there at any given time in a 3-bedroom, 1,000 square foot apartment. And I found myself on my knees praying, because I was ready to check out. I didn't care if I died. I didn't care what happened to me. I had enough confusion rage, anger, sadness, doubt in my heart, in my mind, to go out and either hurt somebody or be hurt myself. It didn't really matter to me. And God knew what I needed at that time. And so at that exact moment, I said, God, show me the light. And a car came around the corner on the street where I lived, and its headlights reflected off my wall. And it illuminated the entire room. And it was that moment of epiphany that I will more than likely never experience again, ever, in my life. And at that time, I heard God tell me, okay, your mother's gone. You didn't have the experiences with her that you would have liked to have had, because I didn't know how to express myself at 18. I didn't know how to communicate effectively enough to talk to her about the pain that she caused me, so that we could try to mend our relationship. I didn't have in me what I feel I have now, which could have helped her through her situation. She was addicted to crack, and she was an alcoholic. And God told me, said, you still have a purpose here. There's work for you to do. If you want to honor your mother's life, then I want you to go out there in the world, and no matter who it is, and no matter how they treat you, you give them truth and love. Truth and love. That is what's going to make your life count. And from that moment on, I was on this journey of self-discovery, wanting to make my mother's life count, wanting to honor her, honor God, and honor all of humanity, because at that time, that's when I realized our interconnection. Said, wow, we all need each other. I still had some skeletons in my closet that I had to deal with. I stopped selling drugs, stopped being sexually promiscuous, stopped fighting, put the pistol away, put the gun away. I stopped doing all of those things. Now, I'll tell you this, everybody, it's been 25 years, ever since the 21st century, I have not had an argument with anybody. Not one person, anybody. Well, my wife and I, we have disagreements, so that's different. I know we're going to have our disagreements and move forward afterwards. We talk and we kiss and hug and we move. But the stuff that can be detrimental, I haven't had one argument, because I feel like if I violate that oath, if I violate it one time, my wife thinks that I go too far sometimes, but that's part of my PTSD. I now have issues that I deal with. And she sometimes thinks that I can go overboard, I can go to the extreme a lot with my philosophy in life and how I live my life. But I said that if I argue one time, then my mother will have lived her life in vain. And my mother will not have lived her life in vain. Won't happen. So again, I live to honor her. I live to honor God, and I live to honor you all, humanity. So the name IronE, I came up with right before I headed out to Los Angeles. IronE meaning that which is not expected, right? So as a young black man from the inner city housing projects, it was not expected that I would survive, that I would make it out. Said that an individual such as myself would be dead by between the ages of 18 and 21. And so I said, I need something to serve as an icebreaker for when I go out and meet the producers, directors, etc., etc. I said, irony. That is the name, irony. And so that's when I coined the name irony. I was out there for a short period of time before I got the message, go back to Atlanta. Whatever's going to happen for you is going to happen in Atlanta. If your dream is going to come true, your dream of being an actor on the big screen is going to come true, then you have to do it in Atlanta, where my wife and children were. My wife gave her consent for me to go out there for the short time that I did go, but I had to go back home. Went back home, cleared all the demons, got all the demons out of my closet, made some confessions, and dealing with that whole thing, dealing with my PTSD. Even to this day, I still deal with it. My wife is tremendous in helping me through that. I started writing my one-man show, IronE Resurrected, now Blindsided by the Walking Dead. I performed the show for the first time August 20th, 2008. I had a couple of other shows that were running concurrently. I was doing a stage play called 12 Angry Men. And I have been trying to get an agent for 10 years after graduating from UGA. And when they heard about my one-man show, me sharing my testimony, that's when they reached out and contacted me. Because God, to me, was like, nothing else is going to happen for you until you tell your story. Share your story. Your story is meant to inspire. If you don't tell your story, I'm not gonna let it happen for you. And so I finally told my story, and just immediately, shortly after that, I got a call from an agent. They said, we want to represent you. And when I went in, I was so free because I was happy that I said I didn't really care if I got an agent or not, because I felt so fulfilled by performing my one-man show. And that's when the call came, because I stopped worrying about it so much. I let it go. I was like, all right, forget about it. Whatever happens, happens. And that's when I got the agent. Weeks after that, maybe a couple of months, I got the audition for The Blind Side, and that's when I booked The Blind Side. Just shortly after that. And within a year of that, I booked The Walking Dead. It's like, wait a minute. Many actors in the industry go their entire career without booking one hit show. And God made it possible for me to book 2 within a year. So I know that God is real. I asked David yesterday, I said, are you a believer? I'm not here to try to convert anybody. That's not my job. My job is to practice what I preach. Walk the talk. And hopefully others will see it and be inspired by it. As simple as that. And so, this walk that I've been on is so meaningful to me, because in my travels around the world, and I share my testimony, people come up to me and they say, wow, I was going through something similar to that. Or I lost a parent, like we heard earlier. Is that Mike who lost a parent? I think earlier. And when we share our testimony, everybody, we help each other to be better. We help each other to grow. Because what we want to know is that we're not in this alone. It feels good to know okay, so other people are going through this. If they made it through, I can make it through it. So there's so much more I can say, but I want to leave on this note, is that I love you all. And if I could sacrifice my life to make humanity better, I would do that in a heartbeat. I want to encourage all of you to just know that you are important. You are an individual for a reason. 8 billion people almost. And not one of us is the same as another. Not even twins, not even triplets, not even, quintuplets or whatever. We're all different. We're all different, you know? So that means it tells me that we have something to offer this world. And I feel like if we don't do what that voice inside tells us to do, also referred to as a conscience, then we are doing a disservice to humanity. We're doing a disservice to one another. So I love you all. And on that note, I'm going to call it. It was a pleasure.